Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Carolina Pro Football Report on ADSN. I'm Charles Arbuckle alongside Colin Cole, and we also have a special guest for us this week, sports director at WBT and the color commentator on the Panthers Radio Network, Jim Szoke. Jim, thanks for joining us today.
Great, Buck. How you doing, Colin? How are you?
Good, Jim. How you doing?
Good. Hey, man. So, Jim, I know we don't want to take much of your time, but the one thing I want to talk about is, and Colin and I have done this for the last few weeks, the dynamic offense for the Panthers has played well. They've started slow at times, but they always get going. But the one bit of news that we heard today was that potentially Christian McCaffrey could be coming back. What would that do if this offense were able to get him back and get him healthy this week?
Well, you've seen it the last 2 years. I mean, he's just as good as it gets at that running back spot. I mean, as far as just being a flex receiver, being a running back, and he blocks. I mean, he does everything that you could want out of a teammate. He's a leader, so he makes everything go, make everything better. And the nice things we've seen is last year he played 93% of the snaps, right? So now we've seen what Mike Davis can do. They're working Curtis Samuel in there at running back, and he scored a rushing touchdown this past week. When he comes back, he doesn't have to be that kind of player really ever again. You can use him a lot, but you can use him as a decoy now. If you had other guys out there that you want to use, and we've seen how good the receivers are on this team. So his team is really so multiple. As great as he is, it doesn't have to be the heavy workload that it was.
So, the other thing, Jim, we've talked a lot about this over the last few weeks. I know Colin and I have said Teddy Bridgewater, I think a lot of people were anticipating he was going to be a game manager. I kind of tried to tell him that's not going to be the case. And I think you and I talked even before the season about some of the things that Teddy was going to bring to this offense that really were going to make it explosive, so to speak. Tell us what you've seen over these few weeks now that you've got a chance to watch him in a sample size.
Yeah, and I think sometimes game manager almost gets a negative connotation. I mean, it kind of depends on your view of what you think a game manager is. If it's a guy that's not going to turn the ball over, that's actually something that's a positive, I think. But he is more than just a guy that's a caretaker of the offense. I mean, you've seen his 72%. He's second in the league in completion rate. He's fifth in yards. So that means he's taking shots down the field. It's not just dink and dunk. But beyond that, I mean, he's such a cerebral guy. He's smart. He's a captain. He's a leader. He'll go out there. He'll run some scout team against the defense to give them a look at what the opponent might be doing a little bit out there. So, I mean, he really is a guy that's completely, immersed himself in this team. And of course, what he brings is that, that harmony with Joe Brady in this offense that he brings from being with the New Orleans Saints. And they're running a lot of that kind of feel and texture of what the Saints were doing, obviously some LSU stuff and some other things, but just his knowledge of that offense in a year without preseason games has just been invaluable for him to come in there and do a great job.
Jim, you talk about Teddy and his management of the games. And I think he's been amazing. I mean, I think just like you said, the connotation about a game manager has got a negative connotation, but he's done an amazing job. What do you think about what he's done and his ability to limit the turnovers?
That's the key. I mean, the two games where they've had turnovers that they've lost, that happened against Tampa Bay, happened against Chicago a couple of weeks ago. So they can't, their margin for winning, they're in every game, but their margin for winning those close games is pretty thin. So it's, when they have 3 or 4 turnovers in a game, and they're not always on Teddy when those happen, but they can't have that. They can't have a lot of quarterback sacks. And he runs better than people thought, expected. I think you think that major reconstructive knee surgery, you just think, maybe he used to could run, and now who knows? Is he just kind of a pocket passer? But he got out that Bears game. It wasn't by design, but he ran 8 times for 48 yards, and he got 48 yards out of that. You saw that 19-yard touchdown run he had earlier this year. That was a piece of art. So Teddy, in terms of in the pocket feet, is almost elite in terms of just his mobility in the pocket, buying some time, stepping up, knowing when to drift out, just extending the play with his feet. That's probably more about where his versatility comes in.
All right, Jim. So last question for me. When are the tight ends going to get involved, man? Hey, I'm watching every week. I'm saying they're going to do a good job. I'm not laughing. I'm tired of them run. And I know Teddy wants to throw to him. What's up with the tight ends?
We're saving that. That's the second half surprise to the season, Buck, is the emergence of Ian Thomas and Chris Manhertz in this offense. I mean, you're right. They've been blocking, not getting a lot of looks. I mean, there's some games where it's like 1 or 2 targets even to the tight ends in this offense. So we thought we would see more, but there's not a Greg Olsen to be seen as far as what's going on in this passing game right now.
In the trenches, really, too, offensive line play, how have they played, or have they played above expectations or at expectations, or What are your thoughts?
I think they've exceeded expectations because they've dealt with injuries from day one. I don't know. We have a hard time getting the same five out there all the time. Russell Okung's been in and out of the lineup, and he missed practice again today. John Miller was out last week. He was limited yesterday, starting at right guard. Pat Myers is a heck of an offensive line coach, though, coming aboard from the Chargers. He seems to really get these guys the most out of them. Matt Paradis looks like a different player this year at center than what he was in the old regime. I mean, he's really a guy that's playing good football, where last year looked like maybe that was a mistake to have him on that team. But you guys know there's good football players, and there's also good football players that fit. And I think sometimes design and fit scheme don't always work with certain players. So I think he's really emerged with that. And Taylor Moton, man, they have a big decision to make, and hopefully they'll pay him. Taylor Moton at right tackle is balling and playing great football.
Well, Jim, we got to have you back on, man. It was good to have you on. I know you and I have talked and been texting back and forth. We appreciate your time. I know you're getting ready for a short week of game, but we love to have you back later in the season.
I look forward to it. Colin and Charles, thank you guys.
All right, take care now.
Thanks, man.
Take care, Jim.
Hey, CC, it was good to catch up with Jim, man. I know we both know him, and you always hear his voice on the Panthers radio network. The one thing, though, is we got a chance to catch up with Matt Rule. Let's take a listen to that.
We gave up third downs at a level we don't want to. We missed some opportunities to score touchdowns, and yet at the same time, we still have the ball at the end. And so the message is very simply, A, you're a good team that's getting better every week. Just keep getting better. And then B, understand that these games are going to come down to the end and enjoy that. And, you have to go make big plays at crucial times, but you also have to understand that none of us really know when the play that wins the game is going to happen. So you have to go out every play and not take a play for granted. And so I just think there's a lot of great lessons there. We have a lot of really young players, and if they can learn that, a lot of them are just trying to figure out, hey, A, can I play in the NFL? And then B, can we, now that they start seeing like, hey, I can play in the NFL, and hey, we're going to win. Like we're in all these games. We're winning some we're just a little bit away from. Hey, let's just get a little bit better. When you have that mentality, you start to control your own destiny. You don't think it's all this other stuff, and you get better and better and better. That's all I want, is for us to try to get better each week. And make some of those last shots and win the game.
So, Colin, we know this defense is not played up to expectation. When you've got a guy like Alvin Kamara, who had 8 receptions, 148 scrimmage yards, 85 rushing, 65 receiving, that's not going to get it done. But the rush defense, I know you love talking defense, and Shaq Thompson said it last week, they've got to tackle better. But what do they have to do schematically to stop giving up those gash plays?
So, Buck, just like we talked about, you have to be gap sound. Everybody has to be sound in their defensive scheme. Ultimately, what I've seen throughout the season has been sometimes guys have been caught outside of their gaps. So I want to go through this and have you guys check this out real quick. So first of all, we're going to see this defensive lineman aligned in his gap, right? So while he's aligned in his gap here, you're going to see once the play starts, this offensive lineman is able to overtake him inside of that gap. So this defensive lineman has his gap initially, and then once he gets out of his gap, once that offensive lineman is able to reach that outside shoulder and get to his outside shoulder, then that allows that running lane for the running back. So the problem that I've seen a couple of times has been we have not been sound up front, and we've gotten outside of our gaps, and that has created vertical seams in the defense. A lot of times those linebackers and those safeties are expecting defensive linemen, expecting those defensive bodies, those big bodies to be in those gaps. And when they're not, especially if they're running downhill trying to get into their gaps, and then they have somebody who has taken over their gaps and they're not in their own gaps, that's when you have unsound defense. And that's what has happened all too many times throughout the season.
Colin, the question I have for you is, are they stuck in between a 2-gapping scheme or a 1-gap scheme? Or are they still going back to what they've done in the past, and that's confusing them as they're trying to learn what they're doing now?
I would say more so that they are a 1-gap scheme, whereas they are penetrating, get up the field type of defense. I would say the one flaw that I've seen is that at times the game is fast. Let's be honest. The game is fast. You and I both know that. But it's 10 times faster when it comes to the defensive tackles. It happens so much faster. You really can't anticipate a whole lot. You have to just move and react. And I think that with the game speeding up, especially for a young guy like Derrick Brown, a lot of things are happening just that more quickly. So he, as well as everybody else on the interior, I don't mean to single him out as one person, but the defensive front, especially the interior guys, have to do a better job of getting off on the snap and maintaining the leverage. So, you got to be able to maintain that gap by keeping quick feet, quick hands, getting their hand placement properly set on that offensive lineman so they can control that lineman and essentially controlling their gap.
Yeah. One thing you brought up, Derek Brown, he actually is playing some good football, but again, a rookie. You got Jeremy Chin, a rookie who we all like and think. I mean, he's got 56 tackles, doing a great job. I think the other thing is Brian Burns, a second-year player, is playing pretty well. You got all that youth. You know they're going to grow, but there's still some things they haven't seen. And I'm sure Shaq and those other veteran guys like Trey Boston are really trying to help the youthfulness of this defense come together, because that's some of the thing too. You can make calls if you're Luke Kuechly and Shaq knows it, but now Shaq is making those calls, and some of these guys are still not quite sure where to be and what time to be there. And I think that's important that you got to think about when you're playing a young defensive player or young players, period.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Ultimately, experience is the ultimate need for everybody in this league. The more experience you get, the better you become as a player.
Yeah.
And I think that you mentioned some great names in Jeremy Chin and Ryan Burns. I mean, he's turning these sacks, and he's not just turning sacks, he's turning sack fumbles. So he's set his game up to another notch. And Derek Brown, we've boasted about all season, but they are all young. They're all guys that need direction. And Jeremy Chin, like you talked about, having 56 tackles is unheard of for a rookie guy. But at the end of the day, he does need to be directed. He has to be shown a number of things. And once he gets those things under control, then he can play fast, which he's done a great job of doing so. And I feel like Phil Snow has done a great job of putting him in position and making sure that he knows what his assignments are, not making it too difficult for him. And as long as he's able to do that, as well as Derek Brown, as well as Brian Burns, as long as they're able to continue to grow, continue to take ownership of the playbook, take ownership of these plays, we'll see these guys turn into all pro players.
The one other guy we got to talk about, he was released this week, was Eli Apple. I really expected some big things out of him. He was a former first-round pick. Injuries were part of the thing, but I also don't know schematically if he was picking up on all those things. I don't quite know what was happening with Eli Apple, but you can't afford to lose defenders when you're not playing well on the defensive side.
Well, you're absolutely right. But Buck, you and I both know this is a high-performance business. There is no excuses. There's nobody here to pat you on your back if you're not performing. And ultimately, Eli Apple wasn't able to perform. You can't make the club in the tub. You got to be able to be available to have a long, sustaining career. And it's unfortunate that it happened. He's a great guy. I got a chance to talk to him a number of times over the summer. But, sometimes things don't line up schematically. Sometimes some people don't put their best foot forward all the time. And ultimately, he was beaten out by a couple of people, including Troy Pride. So it's unfortunate, but I don't know that he was necessarily in the plans for the 4 deep. So I should say the 2 deep at corner. So, this is a business, like I said, and you're always looking for talent. You're always looking for the best talent to round out your roster.
Well, let's look at the Falcons. This team is an enigma to me. I mean, the Panthers beat them the last meeting, 23-16. They are. I mean, as many times as this team has gotten leads, they can't hold it. Raheem Morris now takes over for Dan Quinn. And we know Raheem can coach. He's a good coach. But it seems like something in their DNA is not allowing them to find ways to win. If you're a Panthers fan, you're happy. If you're a Falcons fan, you got to be thinking, or a football fan, you look at this team and say, what in the hell is happening to the Falcons that they can't hold a lead or finish a game?
What we know, the things that we do know is a couple of weeks ago when we played them, they were lacking a couple of players in their secondary, which was exposed when we played them, and it's been exposed in other weeks as well. Matt Ryan he's got to pick up his play. Ultimately, but that's their business. That's their problem to handle. The running game has been solid. It was solid when we played them a couple of weeks ago. But ultimately, I think that the biggest thing for them is being able to find that continuity and being able to get some guys back healthy. And let's not forget the how big of a deal it was to have Julio Jones out for those weeks. He's a huge part of their offense and an incredible safety net for Matt Ryan, and he didn't have him. So not having those tools, not having those weapons, not having your full, groupings throughout your roster, it definitely hinders you as a play caller, hinders you as an offense. Defensively, they've given up a number of big plays, and I don't know. Should I feel sorry for him? I don't know. I'm looking forward to it.
I feel sorry for him. But here's the deal. Matt Ryan played well last week.
Yes.
Gurley played well last week. Now, Ty Gurley probably wishes he could have that last touchdown back, because if they run out the clock, they win the game, right? I mean, that's one of those things. So you got a healthy Julio. You got a healthy Calvin Ridley. How do the Panthers stop a team that's going to run the football and also set you up with the play action pass that Matt Ryan really wants to do, and they do very well when they get those opportunities?
No question. It's just like any other game plan. You got to get after them up front. You got to expose those guys up front. I know Clay Matthews' brother is out there. The Matthews brother as that offensive tackle. He's a guy that really is in position where he's been beat a few times this year. Mack, the center, he's been beat a few times this year. He's getting up there as well. So you got to get after their offensive line. These young guys on defense got to get after their offensive line. And yeah, with a healthy Julio, a healthy Calvin Ridley, a full complement of receivers, Matt Ryan is going to be that much more excited to take the field this week. Considering what has happened over the last couple of weeks, man, I think that, they're playing with their hair on fire because they realize that their jobs are on the line. And, I don't think that Arthur Blank is playing games. You send a clear message when you fire both the head coach and the general manager and some other folks, not even a few games into the season. So I think the writing's on the wall, and everybody needs to understand that their job is on the line. And I think that's the nature of the business. And I think that's where we're going to probably get the hardest fight that we've gotten from a while from the Falcons this upcoming Thursday.
Colin, you look at this defense, all I got to say is they can't hold a lead, and they're giving up close to 440 yards per game. If you're the Panthers, what do you do to beat this defense that's much maligned if you're a Panthers offense?
Well, we know that the running game is number one. Obviously, the running game has to be established early. Mike Davis has done a tremendous job filling in for Christian as he's gotten himself healthy. And we know that right now he's taking a couple of reps in practice, and he's looking to get back on the field. For a guy like that who has never really missed time for injury, he's probably chomping at the bit, foaming at the mouth to jump back on the field. So I'm excited to see what he gets out when he gets that opportunity on Thursday night. I'm excited to see what he does with it, and the running game, see if we can get it back going and challenge that secondary. Put them in position to see if they've learned anything since the last meeting. This is an offense that Joe Brady's running that's really wide open and giving people opportunity to get one-on-one matchups. Robbie Anderson kind of diminished the last couple of weeks. I want to see his play really get a chance to step up. And DJ Moore, he had a couple of great catches this past game, and I want to see both of those guys continue to grow. Curtis Samuel, as a change up in the backfield, you're gonna really give teams fits when you start putting those guys in different positions, because linebackers have to line up on guys. Linebackers, and they're used to knowing numbers. Like number 10, okay, I'm used to seeing him out here. What's he doing back here? Oh, he's back. Oh, that means I got to go find my guy over here. So it really puts a defense in a position where they have to play a little bit slower, play a little bit more tentative, just trying to feel their way through. And Joe Brady's going to, for lack of better words, he's going to formation them to death and put them in positions where we can find those matchups that are favorable for Teddy.
Well, it's funny you bring up CMC wants to eat. He's hungry, right?
No question.
I'm sure he doesn't want the Halloween candy. He wants some yards and rushing, right? We'll be back with more of the Carolina Pro Football Report right after this.
I'm Marshall Falk.
I'm Glenn Parker.
Hi, I'm Dusty Baker, manager of the Houston Astros, and you're looking and listening to Chopping It Up with Buck.
I know you wanna leave, and I refuse to let you go. I mean, if it's gonna be chopping it up, we got to talk some food, wine.
Chopping it up.
Chopping it up.
Chopping it up. You are the first to hear about this.
It was like his head swiveled like Linda Blair in The Exorcist.
This guy just did it with some bums.
I'd have a full six-pack if I didn't eat tacos. I love tacos.
You're watching Chopping It Up with Buck.
Chopping it up with Buck.
Oh, that's why.
I'm Maria Taylor, and you're watching Chopping It Up with Buck.
All right, welcome back to the Carolina Pro Football Report on ADSN. Hey, one thing you got to remember, this is a Thursday night game. CC, I know I got to think about it. We almost forgot. We were talking about Sunday. Thursday night game, October 29th at 8:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at the Bank of America Stadium. You got the Atlanta Falcons 1-6 at the Carolina Panthers 3-4. If the Panthers can get back to 500, I think they're in a good position to make a run late in the season. All right, so what are your keys to the game? Let's go right to them, because I heard a couple of them in that last segment, but I think you're going to go back to them probably, right?
No question. I mean, the keys to the game start pretty simple. And my first key will always be the same. Run the ball, stop the run. You have to get 28 going. You have to get 22 back, in the position where he's comfortable running the ball again. Get him back into the flow of the game. And get that offensive line firing off on a defensive line that has been suspect throughout the season, and they're still trying to figure out who they are right now. So run the ball, get those guys involved in the game, and also don't forget to throw 10 in there, right? Throw him in the backfield. Second one, get 12, get 11, get 10. I like those numbers, 12, 11, 10. Get those guys involved early. Get them down the field. Third, I'm looking for the D. The Panthers currently have the 28th ranked run D, overall ranking 29th defensively, near the bottom of the league. Todd Gurley had 121 yards off of only 14 carries and a touchdown. He looked a lot like the Todd Gurley of old. Man, but we really got to do a better job this week and take Todd Gurley out of the game. And then tight ends. I want to see my tight ends. I got to see a tight end touchdown this week. I don't care if we got to run a shovel pass. I don't care if we got to run a reverse. I don't care what we got to do. Let's get that tight in the end zone this week. Let's make these defenses have to account for this guy. You know what I'm saying? That's what we got to do. We got to make a weapon out of our tight end this week.
Hey, you know what? If they score at all, I'm going to be going crazy, and you're going to get a text. That's my only key. I don't have any other key, but feed my guys at the tight end position. Like I told somebody today, what's a tight end? I said he's a big wide receiver and a medium offensive lineman. If you remember that, it's a perfect analogy for a tight end. What you got in the score, and who you going with?
Well, I'm going to go with the good guys, obviously, and I will have to say, feel good about a 35-14 score this week.
Ooh. You know what? I'm going to make it a little closer because of the explosiveness of the Panthers and especially the Atlanta Falcons. I say 34-31 Panthers win. Come back and maybe kick a field goal to win it. That's the kind of stuff I think we'll see, because in a short week, Colin, I think we didn't talk about this much. Guys are beat up. So if McCaffrey comes back healthy and he's 90%, he's going to have fresh legs. He's going to be in a position, and you know that to be true.
Absolutely.
Turn around and play on a Thursday? I hate those games.
You hate a buck. I love Thursday night games. I'll tell you why. Because you have a short week of practice. You don't have all the periods in practice. You don't have to stress yourself and strain yourself. It's like high school again for those Thursday night games. That's why I love them. And then you got that extra time on the back end. So, that's why I like Thursday night games. And, get that Friday night atmosphere, So
make this. So what we're going to do during our break, you and I are going to do a chopping it up with Buck segment. We're going to chop that up because we'll have extra time, right? So, yeah. Thanks for tuning in this week to Carolina Pro Football Report on ADSN. Be sure to follow all social media channels and our website at adsn1.com for sports content around the Carolinas and weekly episodes of Chopping It Up with Buck. You're going to see Colin on there soon. He keeps saying he's going to get on, and we just can't match it up. But this weekend, we got some time after a big Panthers win to talk ball, Iowa Hawkeye style, favorite drink. Or if you like soda, that's fine. But if you like a good stick, we got those too. So for my host, Colin Cole, and also thanks, Jim Szoke, for joining us. Everyone here at the network, I'm Charles Arbuckle. See you next time on the Carolina Pro Football Report on ADSN. And remember to vote.
That's it. Vote.